Commander Dayho stood on the bridge of his massive warship. The ship was called the Eternal Dominion, and it was one of the biggest and strongest ships in the Galactic Hegemony's fleet. For 20 years, Dayho had served the Empire. He had seen many battles and conquered many worlds. Today should have been just another boring patrol mission in the empty space near the edge of their territory. But something was wrong. "Sir," called Lieutenant Hyojin from her station. Her voice was tight with worry. "We have something strange on our sensors. There's a ship out there, but it's not like anything we've ever seen before." Dayho walked over to look at the display screen. The image showed a dark shape against the stars. The ship was much smaller than his own vessel. It had sharp angles and smooth curves that didn't match any design in their computer files. Most strange of all, it was just sitting there doing nothing. "How long has it been there?" Dayho asked. "We don't know, sir. It just appeared on our screens a few minutes ago. But our sensors say it could have been there for hours without us seeing it." This made Dayho feel cold inside. The Hegemony had the best sensor technology in the galaxy. Nothing could hide from their ships. Nothing should be able to sneak up on them like this. He pressed a button to contact Admiral Kyung-soo, who was commanding the entire fleet from his flagship, the Iron Fist. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He looked angry, as he always did. "What do you want, Commander?" Admiral Kyung-soo said in his rough voice. "Sir, we have found an unknown ship in our patrol area. It doesn't match any designs in our database." The Admiral's eyes got narrow. "Show me." Dayho sent the sensor data to the Admiral's ship. For a moment, there was silence. Then Admiral Kyung-soo started laughing. It was not a nice laugh. "One little ship?" the Admiral said. "One tiny vessel dares to enter our space? These creatures must be very stupid or very brave. Either way, they will learn what happens when someone challenges the Hegemony." The Admiral turned to speak to someone off-screen. "Captain Minho, take your destroyer squadron and go investigate this ship. If they surrender, bring them to me. If they fight, destroy them completely." Dayho watched as 5 destroyer ships broke away from the main fleet. These ships were fast and deadly, each one carrying enough firepower to level a small city. Captain Minho was known for his quick temper and love of battle. The unknown ship would not survive if it tried to fight. The destroyers moved toward the strange vessel like hunting sharks. Their weapons were ready to fire. Their shields were at full power. They had done this dance many times before with pirates and rebels. It always ended the same way. Captain Minho's voice came over the communication system. He was speaking to the unknown ship. "Attention, unknown vessel. You are in Galactic Hegemony space without permission. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with immediate destruction." For a long moment, there was no answer. The strange ship just floated in space, dark and silent. Some of the crew on Dayho's bridge started to whisper that maybe the ship was empty, just a piece of space junk floating in the void. Then a voice came back over the communication channel. It spoke in perfect hegemonic standard, the official language of the Empire. The voice was calm and clear, like someone ordering food at a restaurant. "This is Captain So Young of the UES Phantom. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system before we consider you hostile." The bridge went completely quiet. Even the soft humming of the ship's engines seemed to stop. Lieutenant Hyojin's mouth fell open. The sensor operator dropped his coffee cup and it shattered on the floor. One ship, one tiny ship, was threatening 5 destroyers and an entire battle fleet. Admiral Kyung-soo's face turned red with anger. "Did that primitive just threaten us?" "Captain Minho, destroy that ship immediately!" "Show them the price of insulting the Hegemony." The 5 destroyers opened fire at the same moment. Plasma bolts bright as small suns streaked through space toward the unknown vessel. Each bolt carried enough energy to punch through the armor of a battleship. The combined firepower could have turned an asteroid into dust, but when the light faded, the space where the unknown ship had been was completely empty. "What happened?" Admiral Kyung-soo shouted. "Where did it go?" Captain Minho's voice was confused and worried. "Sir, the ship just vanished. Our sensors show nothing. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. It's like it was never there." "Impossible," the Admiral roared. "Nothing can move that fast. Search the area. Find that ship." For the next 3 hours, the entire fleet searched the system. They used every type of sensor they had. They checked every asteroid, every piece of space dust, every shadow where a ship might hide. But they found nothing. The unknown vessel had disappeared as if it had never existed. Dayho stood at his command station, staring at the empty space on his screen. In 20 years of service, he had never seen anything like this. Ships didn't just vanish. Physics didn't work that way. But somehow this one small vessel had appeared from nowhere, threatened the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, and then disappeared without a trace. "Sir," Lieutenant Hyojin said quietly, "what do you think it was?" Daeho didn't answer right away. He was thinking about the voice on the communication channel. Captain So Young had sounded so calm, so sure of herself. She hadn't sounded scared at all, even when facing 5 destroyers. It was like she knew something they didn't. "I don't know," he finally said, "but I have a feeling we're going to find out soon." As the fleet continued its patrol, none of them noticed the small probe that had been watching them from a distant asteroid. The probe recorded everything that happened. It measured their weapons, their shields, their speed, and their tactics. Then it sent all this information to its home base before quietly destroying itself. The Galactic Hegemony thought they had won a small victory by chasing away one mysterious ship. They had no idea that they had just failed the most important test of their lives. Somewhere in the darkness of space, Captain So Young was making her report to people who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. The Empire's days of ruling the galaxy were numbered, and they didn't even know it yet. 3 days after the strange encounter, Captain Taehoon sat in his command chair aboard the Silent Death. His ship was special. It was a stealth frigate, built with the most advanced hiding technology the Hegemony had ever created. When the Silent Death activated its cloaking system, it became completely invisible. No sensor could find it. No eye could see it. It was like a ghost in space. Captain Taehoon was proud of his ship and his crew. They had been sent to investigate the system where the unknown vessel had disappeared. Their mission was simple: find out who these strangers were and what they wanted. The Hegemony's leaders were worried. Ships that could vanish didn't appear every day. "Cloak is active, sir," reported Lieutenant Su Jin from her station. "All systems are running silent. We are completely invisible." "Good," Captain Taehoon said. "Take us into the system slowly. I want to know everything about this place. Check every planet, every moon, every piece of rock floating out there." The Silent Death moved through space like a hunting cat. Its engines made no sound. Its hull reflected no light. Even if someone was looking right at it, they would see nothing but empty space. Captain Taehoon had used this advantage many times before to spy on enemy fleets and rebel hideouts. No one had ever detected his ship when it was cloaked, but today felt different. "Sir," Lieutenant Su Jin said, her voice worried, "I'm getting some strange readings." "What kind of readings?" "It's hard to explain. Our sensors keep picking up tiny energy fluctuations, but when I try to focus on them, they disappear." Captain Taehoon frowned. "Equipment malfunction?" "I don't think so, sir. I've run 3 full diagnostics. Everything is working perfectly." For the next 2 hours, they searched the system. They found nothing unusual. A few planets, some asteroid belts, a small space station that looked abandoned. It seemed like a normal, boring system on the edge of civilized space. Captain Taehoon was starting to think their mission was a waste of time. Then Lieutenant Su Jin screamed, "Sir, there's another ship." "Right next to us!" Captain Taehoon jumped to his feet and looked at the display screen. There, floating just a few hundred meters away, was another vessel. It was sleek and dark, with the same strange design they had seen before. But this was impossible. Nothing should be able to get that close to a cloaked ship without being detected. "How long has it been there?" Captain Taehoon demanded. I don't know, sir. It just appeared on our sensors, but the computer says it's been there for over an hour." Over an hour. The unknown ship had been following them for over an hour, matching their every move, staying perfectly hidden until it chose to reveal itself. Captain Taehoon felt ice in his stomach. If this ship could track them while they were cloaked, then their greatest advantage was useless. A communication signal came from the unknown vessel. Captain Taehoon hesitated for a moment, then accepted it. A woman's face appeared on his screen. She looked young and calm, with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She wore a uniform he didn't recognize. "Greetings, Captain Taehoon," the woman said in perfect hegemonic standard. "I am Captain Hanul of the UES Whisper. I hope you don't mind that we've been observing your vessel. Your stealth technology is quite impressive. How do you know my name?" Captain Taehoon asked. His voice sounded strange even to himself. "We've been monitoring your communications since you entered the system. Your crew mentions your name quite often. They seem to respect you." Captain Taehoon's hands were shaking. This was impossible. The Silent Death used quantum encryption for all communications. No one should be able to break their codes. No one should even be able to hear their signals. What do you want? He managed to ask. Captain Hanyul smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it wasn't entirely friendly either. We want to talk. Your people attacked one of our ships 3 days ago. That was unfortunate. We were hoping to make contact in a more peaceful way. We are the Galactic Hegemony, Captain Taehoon said, trying to sound strong. We bow to no one.
This entire galaxy belongs to us.
Belonged, Captain Hanyul corrected gently. It belonged to you. Past tense. That situation has changed. Changed. You're just one ship, am I? Captain Hanyul asked. She touched something on her control panel. Computer, reveal all Commonwealth vessels in this system. Captain Taehoon's display screen lit up like a festival. Dozens of contacts appeared around his ship. They had been completely hidden, but now he could see them clearly. There were small fighters, medium cruisers, and at least 3 ships larger than his own. They had been surrounded the entire time without knowing it. How? Captain Taehoon whispered. We've been here much longer than you think, Captain Hanyul said. Your empire has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. But we've been watching for the last 50 years. We know about your ships, your weapons, your tactics. We know about your trade routes and your military bases. We know which planets are happy under your rule and which ones dream of freedom. She paused, letting this information sink in. We've been building bases and systems you've never bothered to explore. We've been helping people you've never bothered to notice. And we've been preparing for the day when someone would finally stand up to your empire. Captain Taehoon's mind was racing. 50 years of secret observation. Hidden bases throughout hegemony space. How was this possible? How had they remained completely undetected for so long? What are you? He asked. We're humans, Captain Hanyul said simply. We come from a planet called Earth. We've been exploring space for about 300 years now. We met your empire 47 years ago when one of your scout ships found one of our research stations. Your people destroyed the station and killed everyone on it without even trying to communicate first. Captain Taehoon remembered hearing about that incident. It had been reported as a minor skirmish with unknown aliens. No one had thought it was important. Since then, Captain Hanyul continued, we've been studying your civilization. We wanted to understand what kind of people would attack strangers without provocation. What we found was an empire built on fear and conquest. A government that takes what it wants and destroys what it doesn't understand. The hegemony brings order to the galaxy, Captain Taehoon protested. The hegemony brings slavery to the galaxy, Captain Hanyul replied. We've talked to your subjects. We know how they really feel about your rule. Most of them would celebrate if your empire disappeared tomorrow. She touched her control panel again, and Captain Taehoon's computer received a data transmission. File after file appeared on his screen. Star charts showing human colonies in hegemony space. Communication logs from rebel groups. Economic reports showing how the Empire's taxes were starving entire worlds. This is impossible, Captain Taehoon said. But his voice was weak. The evidence was overwhelming. Captain Hanyul said, and her voice was almost kind now. You seem like a decent person. Your crew respects you because you treat them well. That's rare in the hegemony military. So I'm going to give you some advice. She leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. Go back to your superiors. Tell them exactly what happened here today. Tell them that the humans are offering one chance for peaceful negotiation. We don't want to destroy your empire if we can avoid it. We'd prefer to help your people transition to a better way of life. And if we refuse? Captain Hanyul's expression didn't change, but somehow her smile became much less friendly. Then we'll do what we have to do to protect the innocent people under your rule. The choice is yours, the communication ended. Captain Taehoon stared at his screen for a long moment. Then one by one, the human ships began to disappear from his sensors. Within minutes, he was alone again in what seemed like empty space. But he knew they were still there, watching, waiting. Sir? Lieutenant Sujin asked quietly. What are your orders? Captain Taehoon took a deep breath. Set course for home. Full speed. And send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them we need to talk to the Emperor immediately. As the silent death turned toward home, Captain Taehoon wondered if his empire was already doomed. The humans had been preparing for this for 50 years. They knew everything about the hegemony, while the hegemony knew nothing about them. For the first time in his career, Captain Taehoon was afraid his side might lose. Emperor Wu Jin was furious. He sat on his golden throne in the command center of his personal flagship, the Universal Conquest. The ship was enormous, bigger than a city. It carried enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. Around him, the greatest fleet ever assembled by the galactic hegemony moved through space like a river of death and metal. 3,000 ships. 3,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, crewed by the Empire's best soldiers, battleships that could crack planets, cruisers that could level continents, destroyers that could turn fleets into scrap metal. Never before had so much military power been gathered in one place. These humans dare to threaten me? Emperor Wu Jin snarled. They dare to demand that I surrender my empire to them? I will show them what happens when insects try to sting a dragon. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun stood beside the throne. He was the finest military mind the hegemony had ever produced. Under his command, the empire had conquered 100 worlds. No enemy had ever escaped his strategic brilliance. Your Majesty, Admiral Dong Hyun said carefully, perhaps we should consider Captain Tae-hoon's report more seriously. If these humans really have been operating in our space for 50 years without detection, impossible, the Emperor roared. Our technology is superior to all others. Our sensors see everything. That coward Tae-hoon was probably hallucinating from too much stress. But Admiral Dong Hyun wasn't so sure. He had read Captain Tae-hoon's full report 3 times. The man was known for his calm thinking and accurate observations. If he said the humans had superior stealth technology, it was probably true. If he said they had been watching the Empire for decades, that was probably true too. The Admiral looked at the tactical display showing their massive fleet. Even if the humans were more advanced than expected, surely they couldn't stand against such overwhelming force. No civilization in the galaxy had enough ships to challenge 3,000 hegemony warships. Sir, called out the sensor operator, we're approaching the Proxima Centauri system. Long-range scans show, one ship. Emperor Wu Jin laughed. One single ship against my entire fleet? These humans are even more foolish than I thought. The lone vessel waited for them in the empty space between planets. It was larger than the previous ships they had encountered, but still tiny compared to the massive hegemony dreadnoughts. The human ship looked like a dark arrow pointed at their fleet. Admiral Dong Hyun studied the sensor readings. Something was wrong. The ship's energy signature was unlike anything he had ever seen. It wasn't just sitting there waiting, it was doing something. The space around it seemed to shimmer and bend in ways that didn't make sense. Open a communication channel, Emperor Wu Jin commanded. I want to speak to these fools before I destroy them. A man's face appeared on the main screen. He was middle-aged with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore a uniform with symbols that Admiral Dong Hyun didn't recognize. The man looked directly at Emperor Wu Jin without showing any fear or respect. I am Admiral Young-ho of the Terran Commonwealth Navy, the man said in a steady voice. You are Emperor Wu Jin of the Galactic Hegemony. We have been expecting you. Expecting me? Emperor Wu Jin stood up from his throne. You dare to speak to me as an equal? I am the ruler of 10,000 worlds. I am the master of this galaxy. You were, Admiral Young-ho said calmly. But your empire has committed too many crimes. You have enslaved peaceful species. You have destroyed civilizations that posed no threat to you. You have turned this galaxy into a place of fear and suffering. I brought order, Emperor Wu Jin shouted. I brought peace through strength. You brought terror through violence, Admiral Young-ho replied. That ends today. I'm here to inform you that your empire is guilty of crimes against sentient life. You have one opportunity to surrender peacefully. Your ships will be disarmed. Your crews will be treated fairly, and you will be given a chance to learn a better way to live. Emperor Wu Jin's face turned purple with rage. Surrender to you? You're one ship against 3,000. You must be insane. Admiral Young-ho looked sad. I was hoping you would choose peace. Unfortunately, your response is exactly what we expected. Kill him, Emperor Wu Jin screamed. Destroy that ship. Show them the power of the hegemony. Admiral Dong Hyun gave the order and 3,000 ships opened fire at once. The space around the human vessel lit up like a new star being born. Plasma bolts, energy beams, quantum torpedoes, and antimatter missiles all struck the same target at the same moment. The combined firepower was enough to turn a moon into vapor. When the light faded, the human ship was still there. It hung in space exactly where it had been before, completely unharmed. Its shields glowed with strange patterns of energy that seemed to absorb the hegemony weapons and turn them into harmless light. Impossible, Admiral Dong Hyun whispered. Emperor Wu Jin stared at the screen in shock. Fire again! All ships, fire everything you have! The fleet launched a second massive attack. This time they used their most powerful weapons. Planet-killer bombs that could destroy entire worlds. Gravity weapons that could crush matter into black holes. Energy cannons that drew power from the ship's main reactors. Again, the human ship survived without a scratch. Then it began to shoot back. The human vessel fired single beams of blue light. Each beam was small and precise like a surgeon's knife. But wherever those beams touched a hegemony ship, something important broke. Engines exploded. Weapon systems went dark. Command bridges lost power. Life support systems failed. Within minutes, dozens of hegemony ships were drifting helplessly in space. Their crews were alive, but their ships couldn't fight anymore. The human wasn't trying to kill them. He was simply taking away their ability to cause harm. How is this possible? Emperor Wu Jin demanded. Our shield should stop anything. Admiral Dong Hyun was watching the tactical display with growing horror. The human weapons passed through their shields as if they weren't there. It was like trying to stop sunlight with a fishing net. Sir, the communication officer called out. Admiral Young-ho is transmitting again. The human appeared on the screen once more. He still looked calm, but now there was disappointment in his eyes. You chose violence, Admiral Young-ho said. That's unfortunate. Now I have to show you why that was a mistake. The space around the human ship began to change. What had looked like empty vacuums suddenly filled with objects. Ships appeared from nowhere. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They had been hiding in perfect stealth, waiting for this moment. Admiral Dong Hyun's legs gave out and he fell into a chair. The human fleet was massive. Not as large as the hegemony force, but each ship looked more advanced than anything the Empire had ever built. And they had been there the whole time, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. This was a trap, Admiral Dong Hyun said quietly. Yes, Admiral Young-ho said, somehow hearing him across the communication link. We've been planning this for a very long time. We know everything about your ships, your weapons, your tactics. We've studied every battle you've ever fought. We know exactly how you think and how you fight. The human fleet opened fire. But unlike the chaotic barrage from the hegemony ships, this was precise and coordinated. Each shot hit exactly where it was supposed to hit. Engine rooms exploded. Weapon systems died. Communication arrays went silent. The great hegemony fleet, the most powerful military force in galactic history, was being systematically disabled by an enemy they couldn't touch. Their weapons were useless. Their shields were meaningless. Their numbers didn't matter. In less than an hour, it was over. 3,000 hegemony warships floated dead in space, their crews alive but helpless. The universal conquest itself had lost all power except life support. Emperor Wu Jin sat in darkness on his golden throne, finally understanding that his empire was finished. Admiral Young-ho's face appeared on emergency screens throughout the disabled fleet. Attention, crews of the Galactic Hegemony. Your ships have been disabled, but you are all alive. Medical ships are already on their way to help anyone who is injured. You will be treated according to our laws, which means you will be treated with dignity and respect. He paused, looking directly into the camera. Your empire is over. Your time of ruling through fear has ended. But this doesn't have to be the end of your people. We are offering you a chance to join the Commonwealth, to learn a better way to live. The choice is yours. Emperor Wu Jin tried to speak, but no words came out. For the first time in his life, he had met someone more powerful than himself, and that someone was offering mercy instead of destruction. Outside his disabled flagship, rescue ships with the symbols of the Terran Commonwealth were already beginning their work. The galaxy would never be the same again. The news of the Emperor's defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the hegemony's capital world, Admiral Seung-ho stood in the emergency command center, surrounded by panicking officers and broken communication equipment. Half their fleet was gone. The other half was scattered across 100 systems too far away to help. Sir, we're receiving surrender demands from 17 different sectors, reported Commander Jin-ae, her voice shaking. The humans are everywhere. They've been hiding in our space for decades. Admiral Seung-ho slammed his fist on the table. Impossible. We control every system in this galaxy. We have sensors on every planet, monitoring stations in every asteroid belt. Apparently not, sir, Commander Jin-ae said quietly. She activated the main display, showing a map of hegemony space. Red dots began appearing all over the map, marking confirmed human positions. There were hundreds of them. By the void, Admiral Sung-ho whispered. They're everywhere. The truth was becoming clear. For 50 years, while the hegemony had focused on conquering new worlds, the humans had been quietly building bases in the empty spaces between systems. They had hidden settlements in asteroid belts that the Empire had ignored. They had built stations in the outer regions of solar systems where no one ever bothered to look. More importantly, they had been talking to the people the hegemony had conquered. The enslaved species had been secretly helping the humans, providing information about Imperial movements and weaknesses. The Empire's own subjects had been working against them for decades. "What are your orders, sir?" Commander Jin-A asked. Admiral Sung-ho looked at the tactical display. They still had some ships left. Not enough to fight the main human fleet, but maybe enough for one desperate plan. "Gather every available vessel," he said. "Every battleship, every cruiser, every destroyer that can still fly. Strip the defense forces from every system if you have to. We're going to strike at the source, sir. We're going to attack Earth itself. If we can destroy their homeworld, maybe we can break their spirit. Maybe we can still salvage something from this disaster." It took 3 weeks to gather the fleet. Ships came from the farthest corners of the Empire, leaving their home systems defenseless. When they were done, Admiral Sung-ho had assembled nearly 10,000 vessels. It was the largest fleet in galactic history, even bigger than the one that had been destroyed at Proxima Centauri. "Surely this will be enough," Admiral Sung-ho muttered as he looked at the endless rows of ships. No world can stand against such a force. They set course for Earth, following the star charts the humans had helpfully provided during their surrender demands. The journey took 2 months, but finally they arrived at the edge of the Sol system. What they found there made Admiral Sung-ho's blood turn to ice. "Sir," Captain Yunju called from her frigate, the Star's End. "I'm reading massive gravitational distortions throughout the system. Something's wrong with our sensors." "Define wrong," Admiral Sung-ho demanded. "We're getting impossible readings, sir. According to our instruments, there are artificial structures everywhere, wrapped around the sun, orbiting every planet floating in the asteroid belt. But we can't see them clearly." Admiral Sung-ho activated his personal sensors and immediately understood what Captain Yunju meant. The readings made no sense. Space appeared empty to the naked eye, but the gravitational sensors showed massive objects everywhere. It was like looking at a city through a thick fog. You could tell something was there, but you couldn't make out the details. "It's camouflage," he realized. "The entire system is camouflaged." A communication signal reached the fleet. The face that appeared on their screens belonged to Admiral Mi-young, the same calm expression they had learned to fear. "Welcome to the Sol system, Admiral Sung-ho," she said. "We've been expecting you. In fact, we've been preparing for your arrival for quite some time. I have 10,000 ships," Admiral Sung-ho shouted. 10,000 of the most powerful warships ever built. Surrender now, and I might let your world live." Admiral Mi-young smiled sadly. "Admiral, you're making the same mistake your emperor made. You think that having more guns makes you stronger. You think that being willing to destroy makes you powerful. But you're wrong." She touched something on her control panel and the camouflage fell away. The Sol system was a fortress. What Admiral Sung-ho had thought was empty space was actually filled with thousands of defensive platforms, each one larger than a hegemony battleship. The asteroid belt had been turned into a network of weapon stations, all connected by massive energy conduits. Every moon around every planet bristled with defensive systems. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the ships. Human vessels began appearing everywhere, decloaking from perfect stealth. They emerged from behind asteroids, from within the rings of gas giants, from the shadow of planets. There were thousands of them, and they were all aimed directly at the hegemony fleet. "How long?" Admiral Sung-ho asked weakly. "How long have you been building this?" 200 years, Admiral Mi-young replied. "Ever since we first detected your empire's radio signals. We knew that eventually someone like you would try to conquer Earth, so we prepared." Captain Yunju's voice came over the communication system, high with panic. "Sir, our sensors are picking up energy readings like nothing we've ever seen." "The entire system is one giant weapon," Admiral Mi-young nodded. "Very perceptive, Captain. Yes, we've turned our entire solar system into a defensive network. Every platform, every station, every ship is connected to the others. We can focus the combined power of our entire civilization on any target we choose. You're bluffing, Admiral Sung Ho said, but his voice was shaking. No civilization would weaponize their home system. The risk is too great. The risk of not doing it was greater, Admiral Mi Young replied. We've seen what your empire does to peaceful worlds. We've watched you destroy entire civilizations just because they refused to surrender. We decided long ago that we would rather die fighting than live as your slaves. She leaned forward, looking directly at Admiral Sung Ho through the screen. But we're not going to die today, and neither are you if you're smart. The human defensive grid powered up. Energy flowed between the platforms like lightning, jumping between storm clouds. The space around Earth began to glow with barely contained power. Admiral Sung Ho's sensors couldn't even measure how much energy the humans were controlling. Last chance, Admiral, Admiral Mi Young said. Order your ships to power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your crews will be treated well. Your ships will be repaired and returned to your people after we've removed their ability to cause harm. You can go home and help your people transition to a better way of life. Admiral Sung Ho looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at their instruments in terror. The human defensive grid was charging to full power, and the energy readings were climbing beyond anything their equipment could measure. What if I refuse? He asked. Admiral Mi Young's expression didn't change. Then you'll discover why no one has ever successfully attacked Earth. And your people will lose 10,000 ships and their crews for nothing. Admiral Sung Ho closed his eyes. He thought about his wife and children back home. He thought about the millions of soldiers under his command. He thought about the empire that had raised him and taught him to fight. Then he thought about what would happen to all of them if he gave the order to attack. All ships, he said quietly. Power down weapons. Prepare to surrender. One by one, 10,000 hegemony warships went dark. The largest military force ever assembled lowered its weapons and waited to be captured. Admiral Mi Young smiled, and this time it was genuinely warm. You made the right choice, Admiral. Welcome to the beginning of a new age. As human ships moved in to secure the surrendered fleet, Admiral Sung Ho realized that the war was truly over. The galactic hegemony, which had ruled for 10,000 years, had been defeated not by superior numbers or better weapons, but by superior planning and preparation. The humans had been ready for this day since before most of his crew had been born. They had spent 2 centuries preparing for a war that lasted only a few months, and now that war was over, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Sol. Admiral Hyojin sat in what used to be his private quarters aboard the former Imperial flagship. The ship had been renamed the UES Second Chance, and it now served as a meeting place for representatives from across the galaxy. The changes had been remarkable. Where once the ship's walls had been covered with symbols of imperial power and conquest, now they displayed artwork from dozens of different worlds. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were finally free to share their cultures again. A gentle knock came at his door. Come in, Admiral Hyojin called. Commissioner Jun Woo entered carrying 2 cups of tea. The human was young, probably no older than 30, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone much older. He had been assigned to help the former hegemony worlds transition to Commonwealth membership. How are you feeling today, Admiral? Commissioner Jun Woo asked, offering one of the cups. Admiral Hyojin accepted the tea gratefully. It was a blend from his homeworld, something he hadn't tasted in years. Better, I think. Still struggling to understand how everything changed so quickly. Change is never easy, Commissioner Jun Woo said, sitting in the chair across from him, especially when your entire worldview has to be rebuilt from the ground up. Through the window, Admiral Hyojin could see ships from a dozen different species working together to repair damaged vessels. Former enemies were sharing technology and resources. It was something he never would have believed possible under the old empire. I keep thinking about what you said before, Admiral Hyojin said, about how we were looking in the wrong direction. I still don't understand how you advanced so far beyond us. Commissioner Jun Woo smiled. It's actually quite simple. Your empire spent all its energy on controlling others. You built weapons to destroy, ships to conquer, systems to oppress. Every resource went toward maintaining power through fear. He gestured toward the window where the mixed fleet continued its work. We spent our energy on understanding. We built tools to explore, ships to discover, systems to learn. When we encountered other species, we didn't try to conquer them. We tried to learn from them. But your military technology was developed as a side effect of our exploration technology, Commissioner Junwoo explained. When you're trying to visit distant stars, you need better engines. When you're studying dangerous phenomena, you need better shields. When you're working in hostile environments, you need better materials. Admiral Hyojin shook his head. So while we were building bigger guns, you were solving bigger problems. Exactly. And the solutions to those problems turned out to be far more powerful than any weapon your empire ever built. There was another knock at the door. This time it was Captain Tae-hoon, the former commander of the Silent Death. He looked much happier than Admiral Hyojin remembered. The stress lines around his eyes had faded and he moved with more confidence. Sir, Captain Tae-hoon said, the weekly progress report is ready. Commissioner Junwoo nodded. Let's hear it. Captain Tae-hoon activated a small display device. 17 more systems have voted to join the Commonwealth this week. The Zephyrian Republic has agreed to share their medical technology in exchange for human agricultural systems. The Crystalline Collective wants to establish cultural exchange programs with Earth. Any problems? Commissioner Junwoo asked. A few holdout systems are still resisting, but they're mostly just scared. No actual violence. Oh, and Emperor Wu Jin has agreed to the psychological counseling program. Admiral Hyojin looked surprised. The Emperor agreed to counseling? Captain Tae-hoon nodded. He's been meeting with Dr. Sun-hee for 3 weeks now. She says he's starting to understand how his actions affected others. It's slow progress, but it's progress. Commissioner Junwoo made a note on his tablet. Good. What about the integration programs? Proceeding smoothly. The former Imperial Navy officers who choose to stay are adapting well to Commonwealth protocols. Many of them are excited about the exploration missions. Admiral Hyojin had been one of those officers. Instead of being punished for his service to the Empire, he had been offered a chance to help explore uncharted regions of the galaxy. The idea of discovery instead of conquest was still strange to him, but it was growing more appealing every day. And the former subject species? Commissioner Junwoo continued. They're flourishing, Captain Tae-hoon said with a genuine smile. Many of them had technologies and knowledge that the Empire had suppressed. Now that they're free to develop again, they're making incredible contributions. Admiral Hyojin thought about the Aquarian engineers who had revolutionized ship design in just 2 months, or the Kelvin philosophers whose ideas about peaceful conflict resolution were being studied throughout the Commonwealth. How do you do it? Admiral Hyojin asked suddenly. How do you manage so many different species without controlling them? Commissioner Junwoo looked thoughtful. We learned early in our development that diversity makes us stronger. When you force everyone to be the same, you lose all the unique perspectives and abilities they could contribute. When you let them be themselves, they surprise you with what they can accomplish. He stood up and walked to the window. Your empire lasted 10,000 years by making everyone afraid. We've built a civilization that will last much longer by making everyone hopeful. Captain Tae-hoon cleared his throat. There is one more thing, sir. We've received word from the deep space monitoring stations. They've detected signs of another aggressive empire about 300 light-years away. The Dominion of Karthul. They seem to be expanding in this direction. Admiral Hyojin felt a familiar chill. Are they a threat? Commissioner Junwoo turned back from the window. Potentially. Our scouts report that they use similar tactics to the old hegemony. Conquest through overwhelming force, rule through fear. What will you do? Admiral Hyojin asked. The same thing we did with your empire, Commissioner Junwoo said calmly. We'll watch them. We'll study them. We'll prepare. And when they inevitably threaten innocent people, we'll be ready. Captain Tae-hoon looked concerned. But they might be even more powerful than the hegemony was. Commissioner Junwoo smiled. Captain, 3 months ago, your empire was the most powerful force in this galaxy. You had ruled for 10,000 years. Your fleets were massive. Your weapons were advanced. Your territory was vast. He paused, letting this sink in. And you never even knew we existed until we wanted you to know. We had been living in your space, watching your every move, preparing for this day for 50 years. By the time you realized we were here, it was already too late. Admiral Hyojin understood. You're already watching the Dominion. We've been watching them for 30 years, Commissioner Junwoo confirmed. We know their ship designs, their battle tactics, their political structure. We know which of their subject species want freedom and which of their leaders can be reasoned with. And if they can't be reasoned with, Commissioner Junwoo's expression became serious. Then they'll learn the same lesson your empire learned, that there's always someone stronger, smarter, and better prepared than you think you are. As the meeting ended and Captain Taehoon left to continue his duties, Admiral Hyojin remained with Commissioner Junwoo, looking out at the busy fleet. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had met differently?" Admiral Hyojin asked. "If first contact had been peaceful?" "Every day," Commissioner Junwoo admitted. "But I've learned that dwelling on the past doesn't help anyone. What matters is what we do from now on. And what are we going to do?" Commissioner Junwoo smiled, and this time it was full of genuine warmth and hope. "We're going to explore the galaxy together. We're going to learn from each other. We're going to solve problems that no single species could solve alone, and we're going to make sure that no one ever again has to live in fear of conquest." He turned to face Admiral Hyojin directly. "The age of empires is over. The age of cooperation has begun, and I think you're going to like what comes next." Outside the window, ships from 100 different worlds worked side by side, building something new, something better, something that would last not through fear but through hope. The unknown vessel had appeared, then vanished. And in its wake, the galaxy had learned what civilization really meant. Admiral Hyojin raised his cup of tea in a small salute. "To the future," he said. "To the future," Commissioner Junwoo agreed, and somewhere in the darkness of space, human ships continued their patient watch, ready to protect this new age of peace against any who would threaten it. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be those who sought to rule through fear, but they would find, as the hegemony had found, that there was always someone stronger waiting in the shadows. Someone who chose protection over conquest, cooperation over domination, hope over fear. The Commonwealth would endure, and the galaxy would be better for it.